All right, we'll let people keep trickling in, but we'll get started. Welcome. Thanks for attending today. This Lunch and Learn is called Customizing Your SOLIDWORKS Interface. I'm Tom DeLora. This is my second Lunch and Learn, so I'm still open to any feedback on how I'm doing or any topics that you would like to see during a Lunch and Learn. My title here is a Technical Solutions Specialist, which means I get to learn SOLIDWORKS and then show you guys, which is a fun job. All right, let's go through our agenda for today. So we're going to start off with a question. And let me send this out to you guys. So the question is, how far does the cursor of an average SOLIDWORKS user move in a year? Very nice. All right. So we got about 90% of people voting. A little under half said 50 miles, which is the correct answer. So when you think about that type of distance, that's really the cursor moving back and forth on your screen over 4,000 times, if you have a 17-inch monitor, that is. So when you start thinking about the distance that you're traveling in a mouse, you'd like the ways to optimize what you're actually doing with your mouse to reduce that number. Let's just jump back to our agenda and go through what we're dealing with today. All right. So we're just going to go through an overview of what customization is and how it can help you, and then we'll go into the system options, some customized settings within those options, and look at the feature tree and try to make that as efficient as possible for everyone. All right, so our overview is this Lunch and Learn will be used to maximize the efficiency of how you use SOLIDWORKS. So we want to increase the speed of both the creation of parts and assemblies, and then also increase the speed of rebuilding those parts and assemblies, especially larger parts and assemblies, which I'm sure you all know can bog down the system. Also want to try to help you get comfortable with the interface, because the main goal from your day-to-day job is to complete your task. It's not to worry about how the tool's functioning. It's really just a stepping point to get you to complete your goal. So what I'll use the time to do is go over some of the customization I use and some of my favorite options that I use for my system, and hope that showing you all the options that are out there will help you customize your own system. All right, so we'll jump into SOLIDWORKS, and what we're going to look at are pretty much all the system options tabs, and show you some of the options that live inside of that. So going into SOLIDWORKS, I just have a blank part open right now. And in order to get to the system options, we have a couple selections here. We can either go into Tools, scroll down a bit, and hit Options here. We'll pop up our Options toolbar. We also have a flyout bar up top here, which will do the same thing. So under System Options, you have an overwhelming amount of options, and that's because SOLIDWORKS really wants you to pick and choose what you need to see to help you do your job. So if you do every aspect of SOLIDWORKS, which I've never heard of anyone doing, you might have everything checked. But if you are only doing a subset to your specific task, you might want to come through here and start looking at your options. So some of my favorite just on this first toolbar is the Property Manager. So Auto Showing Property Manager. If you don't know what the Property Manager is, we'll come in here. We're just going to make a sketch. What the Property Manager is as soon as I click this line, my line properties come up. With that option turned off, I no longer get that pop-up saying, do you want these perpendicular, do you want this horizontal? It's just kind of a quick feature, and it's not always turned on. So that one's a big time saver if that is not selected. We also got here is highlighting. So using a shaded face for highlighting. This one becomes very handy if you're inside a part. So let me just extrude this real quick. If you're inside this part and you want to select a face to make a sketch off of, when I select that face, it turns blue. If that option's not on, all I get is this blue outline, which kind of leaves me confused to which face I'm actually selecting. So another easy one to say, yes, this is a good feature to have. Let's keep that turned on. All right, the last one that I'd like to just talk about here is the confirmation corner, which I think comes automatically selected. And all this allows you to do, if you're inside a sketch, here's your confirmation corner up here. So you can either exit out of your sketch, complete your sketch, and go back to your art. So a nice little feature to have. Under our next tab here is drawings. So this gives you every detail of how to create a drawing, right down to the starting scale. If you want to work in your normal scale and just leave it at 1:1, you can make the edit here. If you know your parts are huge and you need to scale it down, you can go to 0.5, 2. Everything's going to be customized there. This one's also new, is to automatically populate your view palette with views. So if you create a sketch or create a drawing from a part and that's not selected, you're going to have to go into your drawing, find the part that you'd like to make a drawing from, and then populate the view palette. Automatically populating your view palette with views means it'll take that part that you're just working in, give you your front, left, top, and isometric, and give you an automatic population there. What we also have for creating a new drawing is all your display types when that object comes in. So standard, when you install SOLIDWORKS for the first time, these are your settings. But if you never use hidden lines removed and only work with a solid model for your drawings, you might want to change this to shaded with edges. So when you create that drawing, create this quickly. When you bring in a new view palette, it's going to come in as shaded with edges versus your pure edges or your hidden lines. That's just another nice quick change that you can make to make your life a little bit easier. You also have your quality. So draft quality is not going to be as clean, but it will allow your machine to run a little bit quicker. Finally, I just learned about this one today, is different types of hatches that you can use. So if you're cutting an object and you have a hatch, you can choose the actual material that is showing up in that hatch, and every material has a different type of hatch to represent it. Didn't know about that one. I thought that was kind of neat. All right. Next option here is colors. This one is purely for your aesthetics or your comfort, that you can change the type of color scheme for your entire part. So let me get out of my drawing here and open back up the part. Whoops. Not that good. There we go. So if I change my scheme to green, then all my highlights, my highlighted face will be green, right down to all my drop-downs as well. So really that's a complete preference thing. That one's just nice to show. What we can also do here is change your background appearance, and that will be set from here on out if you'd like to save it. So document scheme just comes in as this white lit background. If you want to use a different image, this is smoke, it's a little more gray. Again, it's just whatever's easiest on your eyes because you're the one looking at the screen all day. One thing I do like is tweaking some feature properties. So if you're working in a complex part and you can't tell if there's a fillet there or not, you can actually assign a color to specific features. So when I come in here and create a fillet around this top edge, around my corners, hit select, my fillets now get created with a color assigned to it. So these guys are extremely small to the point where you don't really know they're there or not. Having the ability to have that color will just kind of highlight it enough to say, yep, there's a fillet there. I need to be aware of this. Let's go back into our options. For sketching, this one actually blew my mind. Lars gave a demonstration last week and showed me this one. When you install SOLIDWORKS, this option is not turned on. So this is an auto-rotate view normal to your sketch plane when you create a new sketch. So with that selected on, if I want to select or create a sketch on that plane, as soon as I hit Create Sketch, it'll become normal. So let me just exit this sketch. I'll show it again without my mouse gesture. Click Sketch, and just like that, we're normal to it, and I can start designing right on that face. I was really impressed by that one. Didn't know that it was even an option because it doesn't come turned on. So if you are doing a lot of sketching on faces, I highly recommend that first option be selected. Also under here we have some relations and snaps. So if you're using midpoints or center points for circles, allowing snaps to be turned on when you hover will give you that option to show you where that actual midpoint is. The slot's not a very good example because it automatically gives it to you. But creating a line, go ahead and edit that sketch. Creating a line, that's my hover snap. So it will give me that option to select my midpoint and snap it down to my other midpoint. Get rid of that guy. All right, what else do we have under options here? For performance, there's actually two key options in here that will help you speed up your time spent in SOLIDWORKS. The first is your level of detail. If you reduce this down to less detail, which is going to be your reflection on the floor, your static effects inside the model, you'll be able to create and update your models much quicker. Similarly, for your image quality, if you're teetering along this red line, SOLIDWORKS will even give you the warning that your file size is going to increase the more precise your image quality is. So you back this off, you'll see your circle that they're previewing here. The more and more you back it off, really just turns into a hexagon. So you do want to be somewhere close to the higher end of things just to get a realistic look to it. But if you're up in this red area, your file size are going to increase, and it's just going to take that much longer to get a rebuild or save or an open from that part. That, we can go back into system options. And we just wanted to touch base on some message errors and warnings. So if you're working inside of SOLIDWORKS and you keep getting the same error pop up to the point where you say, stop showing me this warning, SOLIDWORKS doesn't really delete it forever. It just saves it into your dismissed messages. So if it ever comes to you that you need that message to pop up again, you can come back in here and select it. When you hit OK, those messages will pop up again. You also have the options to show errors on every rebuild or just ignore that. That's probably a safe one to have on just to know if your model's working or not. But allowing these are just really your pop-ups that are coming up every time there's an error in the sketch or an error in the part to allow you to know, hey, we noticed this. Are you sure you want to do it? But up to you and customizable to either show those or turn those off. So those are my favorites out of just the settings options. I missed a couple. Okay. Let's go back. Assemblies and view. So looking into here, when we're in assemblies, for anybody using large-scale assemblies, allowing large assembly mode on will go ahead and give you some lightweight components, and you can pick and choose the size of your parts in the assembly. The large assembly mode will lighten up the parts inside the assembly and kind of ignore some of the minor details that will bog down that big assembly. And setting this to an 1,000-part assembly will allow you to use that large assembly mode. You can also automatically load in lightweight mode, which will take that feature recognition out of your part and show you your assembly, but it doesn't have all that smarts behind it. It's just that large-scale model to show you your dimensions, but not how each of those sub-assemblies and parts were created. Also in view, I played with this a couple days ago, and it freaked me out because I gotten so used to scrolling up as scrolling out. You can go ahead and reverse that wheel direction, and doing that means scrolling down as a scroll out and scrolling up as scroll in. I've been using SOLIDWORKS for too many months now that feels weird, but the option is there to reverse your mouse. You can also use your arrow keys for rotation. So if you're only working with boxes, you might want to set your arrow key to 90 degrees, and every time I hit the left arrow, my block is moving 90 degrees. Whereas if I change that to 45 degrees, you'll see that I'm only turning 45 degrees for that block. All right. So now I think I hit everything I wanted to show about system options. What we have next are our customized settings. And this is where SOLIDWORKS gets into the nitty-gritty of every option you have available at your fingertips pretty much, and trying to make them purely to satisfy what you need to do within your settings. So we'll go through our toolbars, our shortcut bars, the commands, our menus, and then some keyboard shortcuts that you can create and edit. And then my favorite is mouse gestures, which is a new feature, and I believe it was 2012 was introduced. So if you're running anything past 2012 and not using mouse gestures, it's going to be an awesome lesson for you because it's the biggest time saver I can see inside of SOLIDWORKS. So how do we get to customized settings? The first option is under your Options tab. If you use the flyout, you have a Customize here. You can also get to it from Tools, Customize. And this brings up your Customize menu with all your options right here. What you'll notice is while you're in Customize menu, all your tabs pop up. So what you can do now is start moving your tabs around to the order that you use them. You can also come in here and hide the tabs. So if you're not using CircuitWorks or direct editing, this would be the spot to hide it or rearrange it. What I just found out is you can also create a new tab. So I add a tab, empty tab, and call it Tom's tab. I now have a tab that I can start applying commands to. And I'll get into commands a little bit more, but I just wanted to show you that if you're using a core set of functions, but it's spread across many different tabs up here, it's simple enough just to drag and drop those options into your own custom tab and be able to work out of that customized section versus jumping back and forth. We'll get into that a little bit more. So starting with the Toolbars tab, first checkpoint that you can use is just to enable your Command Manager. With the Command Manager turned off, you lose your ribbon up top, and everything becomes a separate toolbar or toolbox that is either floating or you can attach to a side. You can really attach a toolbar to any edge or go ahead and float it. Command Manager keeps everything clean, keeps everything in tabs, and keeps everything right on the top of your screen. When you become familiar enough with your SOLIDWORKS icons, you can go ahead and turn them off and make your viewing palette that much larger. Everything will be condensed up into your ribbon. You still have all your options there. You're taking away the text. You can also increase your button size. It'll reduce your viewing screen, but if you need that extra little percentage of icon, right there would be how you would do it. A couple other options here are your tooltips. SOLIDWORKS is pretty good about showing you what you're hovering over. If you've mastered it to the point where you no longer see those, you can go ahead and turn those off. You can also use smaller or larger ones. There's also a quick configuration and quick mates. So when you're mating two parts together, it'll give you the best options that SOLIDWORKS can think of. If you're purely working in advanced mates, if you're doing gears or symmetric mates, and those are never the correct options that pop up, you can go ahead and turn off quick mates or quick configurations, and that floating bar that kind of appears out of nowhere when you select two faces in mate mode will not show up anymore just by deselecting that. You can also turn on any type of toolbar. So right now I have my filter toolbar turned on down below. I can drag this out, bring it to a side, bring it to the other side. I like it down here just to be able to select quickly. So if I'm looking for only edges, I can use my filter toolbar here. I can also rearrange to which filters I use most often. Really, as soon as you come into the Customize menu, everything on your screen becomes rearrangeable. That if I'm only using swept cuts, I can drag that to the front. I can reorder the items that I use most frequently to be more readily available at my fingertips here. When outside of this menu, you can no longer drag and drop all your features. We can also go ahead and turn on any other types or deselect any other types of toolbars that you may be using. All right, our next tab here is our shortcut toolbar. So this is your S key. If you guys aren't aware, the S key allows you a quick flyout menu. It's a shortcut keyboard shortcut. There we go. That gives you all your quick options right where your mouse is located. So we come into our shortcut bar. We can actually pick and choose what goes into this. So if I'm not using the polygon tool, I can go ahead and drag it out of here, and it will be removed from my shortcut keyboard every time I hit S. So now I'm down to my sketch shortcut. I can go ahead and edit that. S key is a very powerful tool because it doesn't require you to move your mouse back up to your bar. It puts all your options that you need right at your fingertips, right where the mouse is located. And again, you get 4 options for your shortcut toolbar. You have your part, your assembly, your drawing, and your sketch. Also, it doesn't just have to be flyout toolbars. You can bring drawing features into a part or sketch. I'm not sure you would, but this would be the time to customize the actual tools you're using inside each of your toolbars. For commands, this bar has every type of command you could think of inside of SOLIDWORKS. It also allows you to choose where you want those commands to live. So if your display, if you're missing this options button on your display, you'd come into your customized commands, you'd find your flyout toolbars, find your options, and go ahead and just drag it up to your top level. You can drag it into your ribbon. You can also drag it into your heads-up display so it's everywhere. Just showing, not that you would ever need to do this, just wanted to show you that it is possible to pick and choose which features and which icons you want and where you want them. So again, in my new tab, I can go ahead and drop that in as well and be good to go. Like I said, every icon that lives inside SOLIDWORKS lives inside this commands tab. For menus, this is a fun one for anyone that's gotten to their tools list and had to scroll down to the bottom of it. I know that can be very annoying, but there's just so many options inside that tools one. So you have a couple options of reducing this list and getting rid of some of the options that you don't use. The first one is to come into here and customize menu. It's just at the bottom of your tools menu. You can start coming in and deselecting items that you do not use. So when the next time you open it, those will no longer show up, and your drop-down fits onto one page. Another way to do that is to use your Menus tab. And right here, you can pick and choose which you do not want to show up in your drop-down. So click and remove here, or moving items down to the bottom or to the top. So the items that you may use but not that often, you can drop down to the bottom. The ones that you use all the time, you can bring up to the top. That entire list is manageable from inside this menu's customization bar. And like I said, the tools option, when you start getting into all the flyouts and drop downs, is quite the menu. All right. Next one are our keyboard shortcuts, which are a favorite by many users to be able to quickly find a feature without needing to move the mouse and keep one hand on the keyboard, keep one hand on the mouse, and keep moving forward. What this menu gives you are all your options out there. So we were using our shortcut bar before. Like I said, that's the S key. That's just a keyboard shortcut programmed into there. If you're using fillets, instead of going back up to your ribbon, features, selecting fillet, maybe your shortcut key is just all you really need to do that. So if you do Shift F, it'll assign it for you. Hit OK. We'll come into here. I'll go Shift F. My fillet window opens up. I can select my edge, select my green check. We're good to go. Mouse never really moved. All I had to do was hover over the edge. What I probably should have done for this lunch and learn is given a keyboard shortcut to the customize menu, or the customize, just because I keep going up into my options. So if you are tweaking your customization a lot, you can go ahead and give it a shortcut key. Control-Shift-C will pop it right up for me. Pretty nice. And again, just like our commands, every feature or every icon that you can think of lives inside our keyboard shortcut. Really easy to search for it. It'll filter out everything, and all you have to do is click inside the box, press the keys that you'd like to make the shortcut. If a shortcut already exists using those keystrokes, it'll ask you if you want to reassign it and remove it from where it currently exists. The search shortcut here is used for your command manager. So if you're up here and hit S, it'll just move your save key up. Actually, while I'm here, this feature up here is actually really nice for all your commands. So if you know you need to mirror something and just can't remember where that mirror icon lives, typing it up here will give you every instance of a mirror feature that exists, and it knows which type of part or assembly you're in and will filter out the ones that you can use. So instead of using a knowledge base or a SOLIDWORKS help, which is easy enough to jump back and forth to, I pretty much 90% of the time have my commands up here, just so I can search for the feature that I want to use versus going through here. All right, now my favorite part, mouse gestures. I should have put a poll out there to see who is actually using mouse gestures, because they're great. So all a mouse gesture is, you probably see me using them throughout this entire Lunch and Learn, is hold down right click on your mouse and start dragging to the left, top, or down, or right. And it will choose the selection for you. So I created a new sketch on this surface, and now using mouse gestures again, I can create a line, and I'm already into my sketching tools without ever going to the ribbon, without ever opening a sketch. My mouse really never left the 2 inches of the screen that I'm in. These are under your customized mouse gestures, and if you only show what you're using. So here's all the mouse gestures that I use. It's really easy to change. So what I saw somebody doing is using the shortcut toolbar as a mouse gesture. So getting rid of using the S key. So I assign this to down. It's really just creating an extension of your mouse gestures. So scrolling down to your shortcut toolbar will open up additional options. So where mouse gestures, you're limited to eight gestures around the wheel. Using the shortcut pop-up as a gesture opens that up into really an infinite amount, because that shortcut toolbar, as we just learned, you can keep adding to and adding to. Like I said, you have to choose between 4 or 8. If you need more than 8, I suggest using the shortcut toolbar as a intermediate step to get to those additional options. Last tab here is for your shortcut customization and menu customization. All this really means is when I right-click, I have these double arrows that I need to use to expand my menu. I come into Customize and Customization and click Show All and Show All. When I open up that menu, I lose those double arrows and everything will be displayed. All right, I think that's what I got for customized settings. We went through toolbars, the shortcut bar or the S key, commands and creating a custom tab using those commands, editing menus to eliminate items that you don't need to see every time you open up one of those drop-down menus, and then keyboard shortcuts and mouse gestures. And again, you get mouse gestures for parts, assemblies, drawings, and sketches, and you get 8 for each of those options. All right, the last part of this Lunch and Learn is to go through some feature tree customization, and this is really just to help you create features and visualize them a little bit easier on the eyes. Let me get out of this sketch. I'm going to create another feature just so I have it. Cut this. Use this guy, make another cut. All right, so now I have a block with a couple holes in it and a couple fillets. So what you'll see is I have a blue bar down at the bottom. This is called my rollback bar, and I have a yellow bar up top, which is called the freeze bar. Freeze bar does not come automatically turned up when you install SOLIDWORKS. So if you come into your Systems options, it's right in your General tab, there's an Enable Freeze bar. When that's selected, what the freeze bar will do, will lock down specific features for you. So when that is dragged down to a part in your model, when I go to rebuild, it'll ignore those features that are frozen and only rebuild everything after the freeze bar. So if you're dealing with a 500 feature model and you're only changing something at the bottom, highly recommend using freeze bar because it'll only rebuild those items that you just created. It'll trust that those are locked down, correct, accurate, and it won't go back and rebuild those just for the sake of rebuilding them. On the other hand, let me roll this back to the top so now my model's fresh. On the other hand, we have the rollback bar, which brings your model back to a state that it was last in. So as I roll this up, I have this cut extrude that I did in my last step. When I roll that back up, I no longer have that cut extrude. What I can also do is create a sketch. I replaced my shortcut. Create a sketch, create a feature on this face. So now I have that hole. It will drop it in prior to my slot cutout. So cut extrude 4 is now in front of cut extrude 3 because I use my rollback. SOLIDWORKS will ignore anything beyond that rollback bar and create new features on top of it. This is also extremely helpful if you're working on a server system and somebody creates you a subassembly or creates you a part and you have no idea how they built it. Using the rollback bar will allow you to step through pretty much every feature that they started from the ground up. So they created a box, they filleted the edges, they did more fillets, then they cut out a square, they cut out a circle, and then they cut out a slot. So I know the thought process behind the creator of this part that looks like nonsense. All right, what else we can do is under your tree display, we can flatten our tree view. So instead of having breakout boxes for the sketch that falls under the extrude, so I use sketch 4 to create boss extrude 2. What it will do is show you the order that you created each of these in. So it created the sketch, extruded it, and then created a fillet, made a new sketch. So instead of having all that broken down under it, so my sketch lives inside my boss because it's a child of it, when I flatten that screen, when I flatten the tree, it'll have everything laid out in order of operations. What else we have, other items that we have in our feature tree is history, which I think is fairly new. I don't know which year SOLIDWORKS introduced it, but it is a nice feature to see, again, how this part was created. So it'll go step by step from the last, I have it set to 10 items that I just created. So if I make a mistake and need to tweak something, I can come right up to my history. I don't have to go digging through my feature tree. Again, this is customizable to the point where you can say, I want the last 25 items that I did to be tracked in my history tree. This part is not that complicated. I only have these certain items. But as it gets bigger and bigger, it'll track the number of items that the number of steps that you took in your model and track it in the history. Another nice feature inside your feature tree, which is new to 2014, is favorites for material. So when I right-click my material, typically we'll go into Edit Material, choose the type of material that you need, and apply it. What we now can do is manage some favorite materials. So if I'm only working with different types of aluminum, I can create a favorites menu inside my materials and only select the aluminums that I know I'm going to use and add them to my, well, I'm not using rubber, get rid of some of these, add our aluminums in. And now when I come to select a material, my aluminums are part of my favorites. Another nice feature. One more thing for the feature tree is under options, back into our options, we have a feature manager. So what this options category gives us is everything that you want to see inside your tree. So if you're never using annotations and that's always set on to show it, you can go ahead and hide those annotations and it won't, when I save this, we'll lose that folder inside our feature manager. So same with sensors, if that's not something you're ever dealing with, but it's always on there and it's just taking up space in your feature tree, you can come in here and hide them. Or turn them to automatic so they only show up when you actually have sensors set. A couple options that are up top here are arrow key navigation and dynamic highlighting. So arrow key navigation, when you're inside your feature manager, allows you to use your up and down arrow and go step by step through the creation of this part. It also allows you to use your rollback bar. Once I select it up, I can roll back using my arrow keys. And it knows child relationships to parent relationships and roll back multiple steps. So that's what it allows you to do when the arrow key is on. What you also see is as I hover over, so I'm not clicking or anything, I'm just hovering over some items, I get this orange outline of those features. This is another option that comes with, it's called dynamic highlighting. When that's turned off, it pretty much makes your feature tree non-interactive with your part. When I click it, I'll select the face or the feature that I created, but as I hover over, I don't know that what this boss extruded belongs to. That only comes when dynamic highlights turned on. With that, let's see, we went through our flatten menu. I guess naming conventions, one other thing that I can show you quickly here. When you're in your feature manager, you get some display options. So if you have a very complicated part and just using the standard extrude and cut extrude that SOLIDWORKS gives you isn't sufficient enough, you can go ahead and start naming your components. So if I do a slow double click here and call this box, SOLIDWORKS will show me that. If you only want to use those display names, you can show your feature descriptions. So it takes away, back into here. So if you have a name assigned to it, it'll show that. Otherwise, if you don't give it a name, it'll stick to that. So if I show both of these with the description, I can see that my box is called out, and then everything else is the SOLIDWORKS assigned name. So it's just another way to organize your feature tree into objects that you're aware of and that you know why it's created that way. So with that, we went through our views. We went through some options with arrow key, hiding and showing folders that live inside your feature tree that may or may not be helpful. Adjusting the number of objects in your history, creating favorite materials. They are just a right-click away of selecting some materials that you use fairly often. And then we looked at the rollback bar and how that can save you time if you're rebuilding models that have a ton of features in them. So instead of creating or rebuilding each of those features, you only have to rebuild the new features that were added past that. I'm describing the freeze bar, past the freeze bar, whereas the rollback bar can be used to trace back through the model and then add features before other features were already created. So it allows you to adjust the timeline of that part creation. So with that, I'm done. If there's any questions, you can use the chat window. I'll drop in my email address if anyone has questions about further customization. It's tdelora@caddimensions.com. Feel free to shoot me a line, and we'll try to help you out with this as much as possible. Hopefully this helped, and look forward to seeing you at the next Lunch and Learn. Thanks.